So let's start with the Vineland thing because I'd actually would love to talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about PTA and his potential upcoming adaptation of Thomas Pynchon's Vineland, which you were just telling me, Alex, you've started reading but didn't finish
Yeah.
reading. It inspired me to check my local library to see if they had a copy. Probably going to be renting that here in the coming days. But yeah, according to this, and according to journalist Jeff Snyder, there's some rumors about new PTA projects that are starting to swirl around. And the main one is a father daughter story that Leonardo DiCaprio is attached to that is said to feature a subplot about the GOP and martial arts. The other project is a film about veterans in their 50s. There aren't any further details about either of these projects, but one of them is set to shoot this summer. Here's what we know and what's been rumored. Back in late November, PTA's producer and casting director posted a casting call that was looking for a teenage girl who excels at martial arts. According to the casting call, production would start this July in Los Angeles. And this has begged the question, is Paul Thomas Anderson finally going to be adapting Thomas Pynchon's Vineland? And if you guys might remember, PTA also directed Inherent Vice, which is based on a Thomas Pynchon novel as well. So as this article goes on to say, PTA has mentioned the novel numerous times over the years, but in a 2014 Time Out interview, he even insinuated that he tried to script it. I wanted to adapt Vineland, but I never had the courage. Here's the kicker. The stories in Pynchon's novel line up eerily well with what's been rumored. There's a father-daughter storyline, Reagan's GOP plays a big role, and there's even ninjas and martial arts. One of the many characters in the novel is a woman by the name of D.L. Chastain, the daughter of an army careerman who has been trained in the martial arts by a Japanese master and was once tried as an assassin. She takes Prairie, the main character, supposedly DiCaprio's daughter, under her wing and initiates her to a women's ninja collective.
Hmm.
So automatically, this sounds like something that PTA would be interested in adapting. It says there's many characters in this novel, and as you guys know, a lot of PTA films feature many characters, especially some of his earlier work that was really inspired by Robert Altman and stuff like that. Movies like Boogie Nights and Magnolia. So he does well with that kind of tapestry style of movie with a lot of characters coming together. And apparently, this is one of PTA's absolute favorite novels. He said that he read Vineland a couple of months ago, and there were sections of it where he felt like he was just floating. He got high off of it. There's a stack of books I haven't read yet, and I find myself constantly rereading Vineland. It's borderline pathological, which is interesting because based on some research I was doing among the Thomas Pynchon fan community, Vineland is actually a fairly divisive work in his canon. A lot of folks that are really into Thomas Pynchon's work think that Vineland was a bit of a disappointment. But apparently, PTA feels very strongly about this novel. And as this article concludes, he's already adapted Inherent Vice into the polarizing 2014 film and has been citing the author's many novels for decades. There's no reason to brush off the theory that he'd want to adapt Pynchon again. I think that based on the information, the casting information, and what we know about the subplots involved in PTA's new project, I think it's very likely that this story is true, that this theory will turn out to be accurate. And that is massively exciting to me because Inherent Vice, the polarizing 2014 film that was mentioned at the end of that article, is actually my favorite PTA movie of all of them. And I know it's a little bit divisive. It took me a couple viewings to get to the point where it was my favorite. The first time I watched it, I was completely confused by it and had no idea what to think. But as I've watched it since then, it's actually become pretty clearly my favorite PTA film. So, Alex, what's your opinion on this story? Do you think that Inherent Vice was a successful adaptation of Thomas Pynchon, who's a notoriously difficult author to adapt? And would you be interested to see PTA dip his toes back in that water for a new project?
I liked Inherent Vice. I have friends of mine who, like you, think it's his best film. So, yeah. So I've read like the first like two chapters of Vineland. The one thing is like I never like envisioned like the main character of Vineland to be played by Leo DiCaprio. So the first two chapters literally are it's like every year he has to prove he's crazy, so he gets social services. So he jumps out of a window like every year, and like I think it's a dress, I could be wrong, but he like jumps out of a window to prove that he's crazy. And like it's like kind of like it's kind of similar to Inherent Vice, where it's like another hippie novel. And I'm excited about it. I mean, like I think that I like the fact I liked Inherent Vice. I thought it was really good. I like that PTA is stepping away from like the kind of staid kind of like period drama, although this will be a period drama, but it would be like 1980s instead of like his usual like 1950s, 1940s. And I'm excited to do that. The other thing with the Veterans Project is I could be wrong, but there have been like, to my knowledge, there have been other Pynchon novels that are about veterans. So it could be there could be another like Pynchon novel that's in the works. And PTA actually, it says in the article, PTA tried to adapt Vineland before he settled on adapting Inherent Vice but again, he just said it was too hard. So he was like, I'm just going to adapt Inherent Vice. And it worked out pretty well. I mean, and Pynchon is I mean, I was kind of like, I think I like the reason I didn't finish it was I was like, I don't really want to get into a complex novel right now, but I'm really excited to see what PTA has to say. I'm a fan of his. Um, I'm a I'm a fan of his. I think Gavin disagrees with me on this, but I'm a bigger fan of his earlier work than his later work. Boogie Nights and Magnolia are I think my favorite of his films. but yeah, so but yeah, so I mean, yeah, I mean I'm excited because I liked Inherent Vice. Yeah, I actually I liked it a lot better than There Be Blood, which is a controversy.
Interesting.
Yeah. I
I
find
mean,
the blood to
oh,
be
go ahead.
I find There Be Blood to be very overrated, but that's another discussion.
Interesting. Yeah, I also love There Will Be Blood. I just happen to like Inherent Vice even more. And the interesting thing, the exciting thing about Thomas Pynchon and adapting his work is that he's, famous for his kind of postmodernist approach to writing and to narrative. And I think that's part of the reason why I like Inherent Vice so much is just because of how like strange it is on a narrative level, how unconventional it is in its storytelling. And I want to see Paul Thomas Anderson continue to kind of push the boundaries of storytelling, and push the boundaries of cinema. So I think it would be really exciting to see him get back into this. I imagine he's at the point in his career where he feels like he wants to challenge himself artistically. And while movies like Licorice Pizza, I really enjoyed Licorice Pizza. But I think that was more of like a cozy subject matter for him where he could just kind of effortlessly create that. Whereas this, I feel like would be a real challenge directorially and as a storyteller. Like you said, Alex, he thought about adapting this before, but ultimately decided that it was too hard to write into a script or adapt into a script. But like I said, maybe now he's at the point where he's really looking for that kind of challenge and wants to push himself as an artist. And that really excites me because I think, like I said, in my opinion, PTA is at his most interesting when he's at his most ambitious. And Inherent Vice is a very ambitious film on a narrative level. And it's also not a film that's going to appeal to a lot of people. It's not like a crowd pleaser movie. As I said, even the first time I saw it, I was completely confused by the film on a narrative level. I thought it was like borderline incomprehensible. And to be honest, it is kind of borderline incomprehensible. That's just a quality about it that I've grown to embrace, rather than like struggling with, because I think it really emulates the kind of like stoned, drugged out experience, psychedelia, of you're just kind of bumbling through life with these random encounters and the plot keeps thickening and thickening and thickening. But what do you think about that, Alex? Do you think that that's an interesting challenge for PTA as a filmmaker? And also, did you have to watch Inherent Vice multiple times like I did to really fully appreciate it?
Yeah, I had to watch it like I think twice to really appreciate it. And the other thing that I think is worth noting, and this might not be important to you, but his kids are growing up. Like I think his daughter is like about to graduate high school. Like they're out of the time, so PTA is like kind of I think looking for something that's like going to challenge him and do something like that. I mean, the, could have nothing to do with it, but that's just like a theory that just came into my head originally. And I'm excited for this. I mean, I think that he can do it because I think that he's a interesting filmmaker. I think that he's and like you said, he's best when he's most ambitious. I love Boogie Nights. I think Boogie Nights is a masterpiece. I love Magnolia. I think Magnolia is a masterpiece, and Magnolia is very ambitious. I love The Master is a relatively simple story, but I love The Master. Um, and Inherent Vice is a great film as well, and that's a very kind of like narratively jumbled movie. And I had problems with Licorice Pizza. I was kind of bored a lot through Licorice Pizza. I thought it was okay. I thought it was very much like okay, I'm friends with Alana Hayam. I'm gonna make a movie with Alana Hayam where she basically plays herself. Like if you know in that movie, like Alana Hayam basically plays like the all the Hayam sisters are in the movie. Plus, I think their dad is also in the movie as well. So like I always felt like it's one of those movies like I don't want to compare it to this, but like this is just for lack of a better comparison. But like something like an Adam Sandler movie where like Adam Sandler is like kind of like bringing all of his friends together to like make a movie. That's how I felt with Licorice Pizza, at
See,
least.
I kind of appreciated that element of it, you know, but I will admit that it's one of his less ambitious films. And that's why I was kind of saying it was a more effortless project for him. It felt like he was having fun. It's set in his, in the time and place that he grew up, very nostalgic kind of film made with his friends and family. He probably conceived of it during the pandemic as something that would be like more of a feel good project. But I agree, it's not his best film. It was slightly disappointing to me, although I was not bored watching it. I thought it was very entertaining. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's definitely not one of his better movies.
Yeah, I guess we can just agree to disagree on that. And I'm not saying Licorice Pizza is bad.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed a lot of parts of Licorice Pizza. I found the performances to be really, really good. I found, including by Alana Hayam, I found the direction to be really, really good. I think that I actually was lucky enough to see the film projected on film,
Ooh,
um,
that's dope.
which was really good at this like art house theater, and that's always amazing
The
whenever you.
cinematography in that film is
I agree.
incredible.
And the little boy, the Cooper Hoffman is great in the movie.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the performances are great, and I just felt like I feel like I've always said that like unstructured narrative like works best when it's like when there's a time clock, and Linklater is really good at this because Linklater, for instance, you look at something like Dazed and Confused, or Before Sunrise, or Before Sunset, or Before Midnight. Before like all those movies like are set in one day, or even Boyhood. Boyhood, even though it's like 14, even though it's like 12 years, there's a time clock in the movie, and the film almost becomes more about time than it does about narrative. And that was my problem with Licorice Pizza is there wasn't the time clock. And I love unstructured narrative, but I I I just it felt like there wasn't I didn't feel anything. I just was like, okay, now he's getting arrested, and now he's doing this, and now he's doing that, and I didn't really feel anything near the end of the film like I was supposed to.
That's fair. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And that's a good observation too about the unstructured narrative element. I can kind of see what you're saying, and I kind of do agree with that. I honestly need to rewatch Licorice Pizza. I've only seen it once. I find that most PTA films require at least a couple viewings to really fully form a coherent opinion on. But yeah, uh, interesting observations. Either way, super excited for this upcoming PTA project, regardless of whether or not it is, in fact, a adaptation of Vineland. I think it probably will be. I hope it will be. Like I said, Inherent Vice, favorite PTA film. Would love to see him do some more Pynchon adaptations. But either way, Let us know what you guys think in the comments, whether or not you'd like to see PTA adapt some more Thomas Pynchon, and what you think of Inherent Vice, because it is quite a divisive film in his canon, despite it being my personal favorite. So yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time.